amazing scenes there. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Sandy and the aftermath, and now we call it Superstorm Sandy. More than 7 million customers across the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and the Ohio Valley are without power, and in some of these areas it's cold.
It really is, and that's going to be dangerous.
Yes.
No doubt about that. And this, after Sandy slammed into the coast yesterday evening, it happened around 8 p.m. Eastern time, but of course we saw the effects long before that. Let's get you an update now, state by state. The total customers without power, a whopping number of 8 million. And almost 8.5 million. The top 5 are New Jersey with over 2 million, New York with almost 2 million, and Pennsylvania with over 1 million customers without power. There's Connecticut with about 639,000 without power, and over 500,000 people in Indiana without electricity as well. Meteorologist Jim Cantore was right there in the thick of it. He continues our team coverage live from Battery Park City, New York. Jim, obviously New York City is going to be recovering for some time.
They are, Nick, and unfortunately, you know, all the things, when you take a look at two key things for New York City, power and mass transportation, when those go down, we got a lot of trouble. All right, and right now, you know, there's no timetable on mass transit. It could be 2-3 days. Con Ed is saying 2 to 3 days as well, maybe even longer in all these areas. I mean, when water gets into infrastructure, salt water, you have to get in there and get it out. You have to make sure that wires are clear. You know, you have to make sure electricity flows freely and does not get shorted out. So, you know, the water has to be pumped out, number one. Systems have to be tested, number two. And then three, you have to slowly put back online as the storm clears the actual elements of mass transportation. So, power is the first thing. And if we lost the substation, we got a few days before that's going to come back on. The other thing, too, is this storm is so big. Remember, we've been talking about that. You know, you can see around me, it's overcast here. The wind's blowing. This is the kind of damage, certainly, when the wind shifted out of the south and pretty much have come up the Hudson River that we have tonight because of, or this afternoon, because of the kind of wind that we're seeing. We could potentially see even more light wind damage and tree damage just because of this wind staying up in these squalls. So this does not help, certainly in the parameters that we have in terms of search and rescue, in terms of what we're seeing, certainly in trying to get everything back online. So it's just a slow process, guys. And typically, having done this enough, when you're in a search and rescue mode like we still are here in New York City, everything else is kind of, if you will, put on the back burner because they want to make sure everything's safe. Plus, tonight, we're out of power from 39th South. You got to secure the city. You got to secure the city. So we know the National Guard's on standby. I would be shocked if we can have streets filled of National Guard troops tonight here in the city. There may actually even be more coming in as a result of that. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. When is this ugliness going to end here for New York and New Jersey, so we can you know, continue to clean up, which is going to take many weeks, especially for New Jersey. We are talking about probably Thursday. That's when we'll get all this out of here. Friday looks better, Saturday and Sunday as well. We expect improvement, certainly, in the weather. We may actually see the sun for an extended period of time on Sunday, how apropos. A lot of people starting to come in on Thursday and Friday for the New York City Marathon. All right? So that's a big deal as we head in toward this weekend. All right, guys, from the cold, windy side here in the east to the cold, snowy and windy side on the western side of the storm. Janelle Klein's in Snowshoe. Janelle, how much snow have you guys gotten so far up there, or can you even measure it?
We're still seeing snow come down, Jim, and in fact, amounts vary throughout the state of West Virginia, but fair to say everybody has gotten several inches here in West Virginia, and we're expecting as much as 2 feet, possibly more, throughout the state as this snow continues today. A direct effect of Hurricane Sandy, and one that was forecast, but maybe not one that people really expected. This is such a rare event to have a blizzard as the direct result of a hurricane, and yet that's exactly what we're seeing. The result has been a state of emergency for the entire state of West Virginia. The governor declaring that yesterday when this storm began, and that continues into today, especially as thousands of people in the state are without power. Here in Snowshoe, that was certainly true. We lost power here overnight for several hours. It did return this morning. However, people are reporting that they are getting power and then power is going back out. So certainly a lot of people trying to cope with that as this storm continues today. National Guard troops are out, stationed in various points around the state to help those in need. State agencies agencies are offering shelters at various cities around this state as well, and people are advised to stay off those roads. We are seeing the highway department out with salt and sand and plows. However, many of the main roads, even the big highways, remain very dangerous to drive on. A lot of the back roads impassable, especially here up in the mountains. This, of course, good news in part for the ski resorts like here at Snowshoe Mountain. Many resorts in this area reporting that they are now planning their earliest openings ever, which of course they did not expect, given that it's so early. They did not really plan to get snow this soon in the season, Heather and Nick, and they certainly did not expect to get it because of a hurricane.
Good to see at least one bright spot amid all of this. Thank you much. Janelle Klein there reporting from Snowshoe. And while Janelle was talking, Heather, this report came in from the governor of West Virginia. He says that 3 homes in Nicholas County, West Virginia, have actually had the roofs collapsed due to heavy snowfall. That's how heavy the snow is.
And let's hope that no one was inside at the time or they were in a safe spot. Let's send it on over now to Carl Parker. And, you know, Carl, we were commenting on this coming out of Janelle. You know, it's so odd to think of snow with a hurricane. I mean, has this happened before? This seems so extreme.
Well, you know, I'm sure it has happened on occasion. I can't think of anything right offhand, but it really does say something about the nature of this hybrid storm. The fact that it was tropical at its core, and yet it was also feeding on the contrast between warm and cold and the very strong jet stream energy that was coming into it. And we've got an amazing satellite picture that I can show you of that coming up in our tropical update in a few minutes. Right now, I want to give you the latest on the storm. It's a 45-mile-per-hour storm. It's moving west at 10. This advisory coming from the Hydrometeorological Prediction Center. The storm has been handed off by the National Hurricane Center because it is no longer a tropical system. And we're still seeing a pretty good bit of wind. You can see the size of this thing. I mean, just enormous, covering the entire eastern seaboard and then also extending back into the lakes and well out into the Ohio Valley. So as we look at the wind now, not as strong as it was, that's for sure. Winds gusting to 28 miles an hour in Boston and 32 in Hartford. Farther southward, the wind's now gusting to 24 in New York and 24 in the Dover area. And then we've got winds gusting to 42 in Cleveland and 34 in Chicago. And that's the type of thing that we will continue to see for another day, and then getting a little bit better on Thursday. Here's a model forecast showing you the wind coming down a bit tonight. And then tomorrow, sun comes up and get a little more mixing, a little more wind here in the lakes and parts of the southeast. And then on Thursday, that area shrinks even a bit more. So it's going to take some time for all of that energy to ramp down across the east. Now, we've seen a big reduction in the wave heights. These white colors correspond with wave heights of 30 and 35 feet, and that's really gone since yesterday. Right now, we're seeing wave heights of 19 feet offshore and even less onshore, so not nearly as much wave action, and only very modest surge concerns, maybe just a couple of feet, say around the Delmarva, and about 1 to 3 farther northward. Nothing like what we saw yesterday when the storm came on board. Here's the radar picture, and you notice there are a couple of storms now with a bit of lightning coming up into Maine. And we may see more of that develop farther southward and move up into New England. So there could be some gusty wind along with those. And then we're getting the snow mixing in with the rain here in central PA and back into West Virginia. This is all just lighter rain across Philly and Baltimore and D.C. And then rain bands with very strong wind driving southward from the lakes and into the Ohio Valley. And there's your heavier snow that's coming down in central parts of West Virginia, and some rain showers here extending on down into North and South Carolina. So all of this is slowly winding down. It's going to very slowly come to an end, but we will not see any of the truly severe impacts the way that we saw yesterday. That part of the storm is over. It has peaked, and so now it's just lingering. It's going to be a slow downward slide until things gradually improve by the time the weekend rolls around. All right, let's go to Reynolds Wolf right now, and he's following the storm.